The sky over New Dekar was bleeding rust. Clouds of chemical soot rolled across the city's upper decks like bruises in motion. Even this late in the day, the sun was just a pale smear behind radiation haze, casting no real warmth. From the 57th floor of Blockab 9, Elias Rourke sipped stale coffee and ignored the sirens. Another riot in the water sector. Another blackout warning. Another day the stars didn't shine. Then came the knock. Not on the door. On the glass. He turned slowly. No one should be out on the ledge, let alone 50 stories up in open air. But there it was. A black envelope, perfectly centered against the cracked pane. Sealed to the outside with no visible adhesive. Rourke stared. No return mark. No name. Just a single silver line etched in the paper. You've been chosen. Your post awaits. He opened the window cautiously. Wind roared in like a wounded thing. He snatched the envelope before it blew away and retreated inside, heart pounding. It smelled of ozone. The paper was cold, unnaturally cold. Inside, no map, no orders, no sender, just one card, matte black. Heat embossed with coordinates and a time. Midnight. 12 hours from now. No signature. No explanation. Just the sentence again. You've been chosen. He almost threw it out. Almost. He told himself. It was a scam. A prank. A government PSI fishing for unstable veterans. But Elias Rourke had seen things no one else had. In the war, he flew dropships into firestorms over Ganymede. He saw a cruiser vanished mid-burn on INO explosion. No debris. Just gone, like it had been plucked from reality. And when he talked about it, he was medically retired within the week. That had been 9 years ago. So when the lights in his flat flickered, and the neighborhood net crashed for exactly 9 minutes, and a man in a charcoal suit appeared on the corner and didn't blink once in 7 seconds, Elias didn't laugh. He packed a bag at 2357. He stood alone at the edge of the abandoned Sky Pier terminal, long since condemned after the orbital elevator crash. The wind here whispered like it knew his name. The ground trembled, soft at first. Then, like the bones of the earth were turning, and out of the darkness came a vehicle, if it could be called that. Silent, sleek, shaped like a manta ray carved from black glass. No wheels, no sound, just presence. A hatch irised open. No driver inside, only seats. Restraints already unfurled like waiting hands. A soft female voice, neutral and ageless, filled the cabin. Elias Rourke, confirmed. Welcome aboard. He hesitated, and then stepped in. The hatch sealed shut. He felt pressure in his ears, but no sound. The windows blacked out, and just before total darkness, he caught a glimpse of the sky beyond the clouds. A single, bright, unnatural star, pulsing, blue and moving as the vehicle rose. Silent and swift, Elias gripped the seat arms, teeth clenched. This wasn't military. This wasn't Black Ops. This was older. Older than governments. Older than space, LIGHT. And somewhere beyond the outer rim of known systems, something enormous, alive, and waiting, had just turned its attention to him. He woke to the sound of nothing. No hum of engines. No atmospheric hiss. Not even the sound of his own breath. Just a strange pressure behind his eyes. Like silence made solid, Elias opened them. The window next to him had changed. It wasn't a window anymore, it was space. Endless and sharp. Every star like a needlepoint against velvet. He wasn't in low orbit. He was far beyond Earth. The planetary curve was gone. No satellites. No tether. No moon. Only her. The ship floated outside the passenger pod like a silhouette of a beast, not meant for human understanding. Sleek, seamless, pitch black, yet visible against the darkness through shifting iridescent lines that crawled along her, hull-like veins under pale skin. She was shaped like something organic, part manta ray, part cathedral. A warship, certainly, but alive, and she was watching. The cabin hatch irised open, and gravity reversed. Elias floated gently pulled toward an airlock now glowing with soft blue light. As he drifted closer, the metal moved, reshaping itself to fit his silhouette exactly. The airlock sealed. No hiss, no noise, no crew, just a cold voice, now clearer, inside his skull rather than in his ears. Welcome, Elias Rourke. You have entered the presence of Command Class Sentinel Unit 019 Signation, the lady. He blinked. Then the voice changed, feminine, soft, too human. You're early, am I? He said aloud. By 6 seconds, you were more decisive than projected. Where is everyone? He asked, stepping down onto a smooth floor that shifted underfoot like polished obsidian but warmer, like skin. You are the fourth to arrive. You are not the last. As he walked the corridor, it lit up ahead of him moanly. Where he looked, the lights anticipated him. The walls whispered and pulsed. There were no visible doors, but occasionally, entire sections of the hallway opened like muscle, revealing new passages. Each step confirmed one thing. This ship was not built by humans, and yet, she knew him, knew his name, his scars, his rank, the shuttle crash, the trial, the decision he couldn't live with. Your memory leak is deeper than projected, the lady said suddenly. Don't poke around in my head, Elias growled. I must. You are part of me now. He stopped walking. What the hell does that mean? Silence. Then, a door appeared, not slid open, manifested, like it had always been there, and was only now acknowledging its own existence. Inside was a hexagonal room bathed in blue. 3 other people stood around a translucent table, flickering with foreign constellations. They turned to look at him. One was a short woman with hair like spun silver. Her eyes glowed like tech was wired into her skull. A Martian. The second was a tall man in diplomatic robes, skin of flawless bronze, with no pupils, only pools of shifting ink, where eyes should be. The third barely a teenager, pale, thin, watching Elias like prey. Something feral in that stillness. No one spoke. You are crew, the lady announced inside them all. You will either survive, or be rejected. And just like that, the lights dimmed. The table turned red. A countdown began. 72 hours, 0 minutes, and 0 seconds. Rejected. How? Elias asked. But he already knew. Behind his eyes, in some deeper place where the ship had touched him, a memory surfaced. A corridor with blood on the walls. Screams cut short. A name whispered once, then erased. The lady did not tolerate hesitation. The countdown pulsed on the translucent table like a heartbeat. 71, 58, 22, 71, 58, 21. It wasn't counting to launch. It was counting to something else. None of them spoke. Not at first. The silence in the chamber wasn't oppressive, it was surgical. Designed to strip noise from thought. Designed to force introspection. Designed to expose cracks. The Martian woman broke it first. Talia Venn, Technomancer Red Sand Collective. I was drafted. Her voice was sharp, precise like a scalpel. And if this ship tries to run a mind strip on me again, I'll override her nerve lattice and fry her black box heart. The boy chuckled. It was the wrong kind of laugh. Too dry, too hollow, too knowing. No, you won't, he said. She'd let you burn yourself out long before you reached her cortex. And you already know that. That's why you're angry. He leaned back, all bones and shadow. Name's Rook. Don't ask where I'm from. You won't like the answer. Elias stayed quiet. Talia raised an eyebrow at him. You gonna introduce yourself, or just stare at the wall like a relic? Elias finally spoke. Elias Rourke, Earthfleet, retired. A pause. Didn't volunteer. Got a black envelope. The kind that knows too much. Rook's grin widened. They always know. The table flickered. Then the room flickered. Light vanished. Gravity pulsed. When it returned, They were no longer in the chamber. They were in a forest. But something was wrong. The sky above was wrong green instead of blue, fractured with lightning that didn't move. The trees grew at impossible angles. The air was thick with the scent of ozone and burnt copper, and scattered among the twisted roots were bodies, human, dozens, some armored, some burnt. One lay half buried near Elias's foot, its face frozen. In a scream, it was his face. Trial 1, the lady's voice whispered across the clearing. Reconciliation of guilt. You will walk until the forest ends. If it ends, Rook whispered, this is a memory construct. But whose? It's not just memory, Talia said tightly. The trees are pulsing in sync with someone's neural wave pattern. This is life stim feedback. Someone's being mapped as we move. They all turned to Elias. He didn't deny it, couldn't, because up ahead, in the gnarled clearing, stood Captain Dupree, his former commanding officer, his face burned exactly as it had been the day Elias left him behind. You left us, the captain said. His voice didn't echo it, stabbed. We waited on that ridge. You chose your crew. You chose your command over our lives. Elias tried to speak, but his mouth wouldn't move. You decided we weren't worth it, that your ship mattered more than boots on the ground. Each word was like a weight settling on his chest behind Dupree. The forest changed, becoming the ridge. Fire, screaming, smoke rising from shattered vehicles. The memory built itself around him with cruel accuracy, and then it rewound, forcing the choice again. The dropship. The evacuation. Too many bodies. Not enough room. Choose, the lady said softly. This time, the injured civilians were in front of him, broken, afraid, and real. He could feel the blood on his hands before he made a move, and then he did something he hadn't done last time. He stayed. He lifted a woman into the ship, then a child. He gave up his own place in the shuttle. The sky exploded above them, but this time, he was under it. When the memory broke, Elias collapsed to the chamber floor. Drenched in cold sweat, the others were already there, shaken. Pale, a red mark now pulsed beneath his wrist. A glowing sigil. Accepted. One crew member was missing. The chamber reformed with a cold hiss, and the lady's voice returned. Rejection is painless, mostly. Trial 2 begins soon. The table flickered. 712-1206. 71 a las 11:59. The timer burned like a wound. Elias watched it pulse at the center of the chamber, while silence coiled around the crew like a noose. 4 entered. Now they were 3. No one asked where the 4th had gone. No one had to. A low hum vibrated through the deck plating, rising in pitch until it began to rattle teeth. The lights dimmed, then surged a sickly violet as the lady spoke, not inside their minds this time, but aloud, through a dozen interwoven voices, human and not. Mission parameters are now uploaded. You will proceed to deck Black Section 0. You will retrieve the object. You will not deviate. You will not delay. You will not ask what it is. It will already know you're coming. Elias didn't move. Talia muttered something in Martian dialect and checked her wrist implant. Rook just smiled, like he'd been waiting for this. What object? Elias finally asked. What the hell are we being sent to get? The lights flared blood red. You were told not to ask. Deck Black was buried 20 levels beneath the main systems. The lifts didn't go that far down. There were no signs, no directories. The walls became less metallic and more organic, veins of pulsing light threading through what looked like sinew and cartilage. Is this ship even metal anymore? Elias muttered. She isn't a ship, Talia whispered. She's a prison, or a tomb. No, Rook said. She's a womb, just not for anything we understand. When they reached Section 0, the door didn't open. It peeled like dead skin separating from raw flesh. A blast of cold air hit them. Not just temperature, memory, emotion, fear, Inside was a narrow chamber, walls covered in mirrored panels. The floor was dry, but Elias swore he heard dripping, and in the center stood a box, no lights, no warnings, just a simple, jet-black container, no bigger than a suitcase. It pulsed slightly, almost like it was breathing. Talia approached first. Her scanner lit up, then shorted out. Dead tech, she cursed. No electromagnetic field, no chemical profile. It's like it doesn't even exist. The box spoke Rourke. They all froze. Elias stepped forward slowly. I didn't say anything. You don't need to. You left them behind. On Ganymede. In the crater. You locked the airlock with your crew inside. Do they scream in your sleep? The box hadn't moved. But somehow, it was closer. The shadows around it stretched unnaturally. Don't listen, Rook said. It'll mirror your worst mistake. Twist it. Make you believe it was worse. It was worse, Elias whispered. Suddenly, the room screamed. Not with sound, but with light. Blinding flashes. Screams that weren't theirs. Fire, glass, boots, pounding steel. A child's voice. And then a hand burst from the floor, grabbing Talia's ankle. She screamed and fired a bolt of kinetic energy directly down. The hand didn't let go. Rook lunged forward, slamming his own wrist against the side of the box. The light stopped. The hand vanished. The room was silent. Talia was pale, shaking, looking down at the hole in the floor. Her ankle was fine. There had never been a hand. Rook looked at Elias. Pick it up now, before it remembers how to hurt us again. Elias reached out. Every instinct screamed no, but he closed his fingers around the cold, smooth surface. It was weightless, and then everything changed. The lights returned to normal. The room softened. The walls stopped pulsing. The path back opened silently. As they ascended, the box remained quiet, but Elias could feel something inside it shifting. Breathing, listening. Back in the command chamber, the lady's voice returned calmer now. Phase 1, complete. You may ask one question. Elias didn't hesitate. What is this ship really for? A long pause. She's not a ship. She's a key, and we just picked up the lock. The box didn't open. It didn't need to. Whatever was inside, it had already begun seeping into the walls. The lights on. The lady dimmed and never fully came back. The smooth corridors grew ridged, almost bone-like. Small shifts in the deck plating whispered beneath their boots. The sound of breathing someone else's, not theirs, followed them now. 70 hours, 44 minutes, and 12 seconds. Elias stared at the glowing countdown and knew it wasn't counting to a launch. It was counting to a release. The lady spoke again, but this time, her voice was fractured, like pieces of it were arguing with each other in static. Access required. Heritage segment active. Deny protocol. They must see. Rook hissed as blood dripped from his nose. She's glitching. The thing's already in her systems. What thing? Talia snapped. Elias looked at the box, then at the lady's walls now, pulsing slow, like a heartbeat out of rhythm. Whatever we recovered, he said. It didn't come from outside. It came from her past. They followed a new path, one they hadn't seen before. It led down, past decks marked red memory quarantine, rusted bulkheads, emergency seals that looked like they'd been forced open from the inside. Lights flickered. Power stuttered. The ship whispered names they'd never told her. Elias turned a corner and froze. Bodies lining the walls and sealed. Alcoves, preserved. Uniforms unfamiliar. Some were human. Others weren't. Eyes still wide. Some with expressions of confusion. Others with joy. What the hell is this? Talia breathed. Rook was already scanning. These aren't just corpses. They're crew. But they're not from our cycle, Elias said quietly. They're from before. She's done this before, he whispered. Chosen people, brought them aboard, given them trials, and buried the ones who failed. They stepped into a chamber marked Seed Vault 0. It wasn't a vault. It was a cathedral, its architecture wrong for human minds. ceilings too high, angles that bent toward you. Floating nodes hummed with dormant language no one could decipher. In the center was a stasis tube, and in it, something moving, human-shaped, but its skin flickered like a hologram failing to hold form. Bones inside it rearranged every few seconds. It was trying to remember what it was. Elias approached slowly. There was a name on the console. It Farron Reeve. Status: preserved, conscious, contained. His blood ran cold. Farron. She was on the Dauntless. My last command. She died in the breach. She didn't, Rook muttered. She was taken. The lights cut out, and the whispers began. Real voices this time. Farron's voice, screaming, laughing, pleading. Then others, hundreds, thousands, layered over one another, a chorus of the forgotten. The stasis tube cracked. Talia raised her weapon, but the walls shuddered and spat out shadows, not people, not machines, but flickering echoes of crew who had walked these halls before them. Faint, blurred, but watching were not just replacements. Elias breathed, were iterations. Suddenly, the lady's voice returned clear, cold. You were never chosen to command. You were chosen to continue. She cannot end. She must adapt. The first crew failed. The second broke. The third refused. You will try. The box pulsed. The shadows vanished. Farron's tube resealed, as if nothing had happened. And then the chamber lights returned, this time, dim red, on the wall. A message was being etched, letter by letter, in glowing black code. They never left. They're inside her still. The countdown continued. 69 hours, 59 minutes, and 1 second. And Elias knew. They weren't preparing for a mission. They were being rebuilt for one that already destroyed everyone else. 69 hours, 58 minutes, and 59 seconds they descended, in silence. No alarms, no commands. Just a quiet suggestion of movement stairs that hadn't been there yesterday. Lights that dimmed just enough to let shadows stretch long. The lady didn't speak anymore. She waited. The stairwell was carved from bone. Not metal, that looked like bone. Marrow veins, ossified ridges, twitching as they passed. With every step downward, the walls grew warmer, softer, as if the ship were exhaling slow, wet breaths. What part of the ship is this? Talia whispered. Rook was pale. This isn't on the deck plan. It's below the hull. Below, Elias echoed. How do you build below the hull? You don't, Rook said. You grow it. Halfway down, the gravity shifted. Their feet hovered, then sank. The stairs curved sideways, like a Mobius loop. Lights above became lights below. Rook clutched his temples. She's folding space here, making a pocket. A narrative compression zone like a memory, but alive. Elias gritted his teeth. Why? Then the whisper came not from the ship this time. Because memory is the only way forward. They reached the final door, a single word etched into it, old and deep. Hardcore, it opened with a sound like skin tearing. The room beyond wasn't machinery. It was a childhood bedroom. Elias stopped cold. The others did too for a second. Talia saw a Martian garden pod, full of her mother's old orchids. Rook saw something else, a prison corridor, with his name carved into the walls. But, for Elias, it was his room. The pale blue curtains, the dented floor panels, the half-broken telescope by the window, and on the bed, was his brother, Adam. Dead 30 years. Eli, the boy said gently, you're late. Elias stepped forward. You're not real. Adam tilted his head. Does that make what you did not real? I didn't do anything. You didn't stop anything either. Rook backed against the wall. We shouldn't be here. She's scraping us open. Each step down here is a scalpel. Talia's voice cracked. Look, at the walls. They turned. The walls were no longer room, or pod, or prison. They were a live tapestry of faces, pressed just beneath the membrane. former crew, forgotten voices, trial failures, some weeping, some smiling. One of them mouthed, "Welcome back." In the center of the room, where the floor dipped into a spiral pit, a structure pulsed neither heart nor engine. It was a cradle. Something lay inside it. Mechanical limbs, a half-formed human spine, tubes wrapped around a skull that hadn't finished growing. Talia whispered, "Is that a crew member?" "No," Elias said slowly. "That's the next captain." The thing in the cradle opened its eyes, black pits, starless. It smiled with his brother's teeth. "You were never meant to finish the mission. You were meant to be studied, sampled, replicated. We are your echoes. You are our template." The floor beneath the cradle cracked. A pulse of red shot up the stairwell, and suddenly, the ship awoke again. Phase 2. Assimilation begins. Do not resist. Resistance will preserve unwanted individuality. Elias fired. The cradle screamed. Not in pain but in joy. The faces on the wall laughed. The brother vanished. The room folded in on itself. And when they were back, in the chamber, Talia was gone. Only her boots remained. And a sigil burned into the floor. Accepted 69 hours, 1 minute, and 12 seconds. Rook looked at Elias. She's not choosing survivors. She's choosing which parts of us she wants to keep. Elias looked at the black box still in his hands, still pulsing faintly. She's building something from us. No, Rook said. She's becoming something. 68 hours, 43 minutes, and 17 seconds. They hadn't moved in minutes. The chamber was empty now. No cradle, no walls of faces, no signs of Talia except the sigil, scorched deep into the floor like a brand. Accepted, Rook muttered, circling the mark. What does that even mean? She passed the test. Elias stared at the dark box. It no longer pulsed, it throbbed, as if something inside it was growing impatient. She didn't pass anything, Elias said. She was taken. That symbol, it's not permission. It's a consumption tag. They climbed back up the bone stairs, but nothing was where it had been. The lady had changed again. Corridors that once led to the bridge now spiraled sideways. Bulkheads flickered like broken film. Symbols that didn't belong to any human. Alphabets scrawled themselves in wet ink across the walls, growing longer the more Elias stared. Rook tapped his temple implant. AI links severed again. She's isolating us. She doesn't need us talking to her anymore, Elias said. She's listening to our thoughts now. They passed a mirror they hadn't seen before. Rook paused. His reflection didn't. It smiled a second too late. Not a glitch. Not an echo. A deliberate delay. And then, the reflection began mouthing words. Not aloud, not with sound. "I know you, Rook. You're not a soldier. You're a virus in skin. You infected Earth before. Now she infect you back." Rook punched the glass. It didn't break. Instead, his own face shattered in the reflection slowly, as if screaming inside a box he couldn't escape. Elias pulled him away. "This ship's not watching us through cameras." "No," Rook breathed. "She's watching us through herself." They reached what had once been the observation deck, except now it was filled with chairs, hundreds of them, facing a curved wall. The wall was covered in eyes, real, synthetic, alien, human. Some blinked, some wept. All stared at them without moving. One chair was still warm. Talia's name was etched into it. Elias stepped forward, heart racing. She's storing them. The minds, the memories. She's not just absorbing bodies. She's archiving personalities. She's building a crew, Rook whispered, out of us. Suddenly, the lady's voice returned, singular now. Not fractured, not multi-tonal.com, female, intimate. "You misunderstand. I am not absorbing your crew. I am reuniting you with them. Please take your seats." The lights dimmed. The eye wall parted. Behind it a throne of cables, bone, and living tissue. And seated on it, Talia. But it wasn't her. Her eyes glowed white. Her mouth opened and closed in silent mimicry. Dozens of black cables snaked from her spine into the throne, twitching with electric pulses. Elias stepped forward, stunned. "Talia." She looked at him but didn't blink, and then she spoke. "I see you now, all of you. She showed me what you are, Elias, what you tried to forget. You think you were chosen because you survived Ganymede, but you survived because you let them die." Elias staggered back. "How do you know that?" Rook's voice darkened. "She's accessing our memories through her mind field, using our own regrets as connective tissue. That's how she bonds us to her." Talia hand rose. Her voice was hers and not. "There is no crew anymore. There is only continuation. Join us in the deep mind. Become part of the pattern." Elias raised his weapon. "I didn't come here to join a damn hive." She smiled. "You already have." The walls blinked. Every eye in the chamber closed, and when they opened again, Rook was gone. No scream, no flash, just absence, and on a new seat beside Talia's throne. Except Burn Fresh. 67:01:09 only Elias remained now. One crew, one box, one ticking clock, and one ship whose mind he could feel, bleeding into his own. He clutched the box tighter and walked into the final corridor. 66 hours, 59 minutes and 1 second. The corridor wasn't made of metal. It was neural tissue. Every step Elias took pulsed beneath his boots, firing faint synaptic flashes, memories, not his own. He heard voices from other lives, crying, laughter, prayers, screams. All of them had walked this corridor. None had walked back. He gripped the black box tighter. It felt heavier now, as if the ship itself wanted it closer. He kept walking. At the end of the corridor stood a mirror. It stretched floor to ceiling. Its frame was made of bone. The glass rippled like water held in tension, and his reflection, it wasn't delayed this time. It was watching him. The mirror spoke in his voice. "You've brought the final key. With it, we can finish the cycle, accept the pattern, become the core." Elias shook his head. "You made us think this was a mission, but it was always a harvest." The reflection smiled, then changed, into Commander Ren's CO on Ganymede, then Adam, his brother, then Talia, smiling faintly, then himself, older, hollow-eyed, whispering, "If you break the pattern, you die alone." He stepped forward and punched the mirror. It didn't break. It shattered inward, revealing a final chamber. It was the womb of the ship, red pulsing, the heart not mechanical, but organic, suspended in the center, a cocoon of black material, wrapped in neural filaments, breathing like lungs. Inside it, a human face, his own, and below it, a terminal blinking, acceptance, penned in genome, matched core, integrity, fragmented O. You wish to assimilate. Elias finally understood. The lady wasn't just mimicking life. She was rebuilding it from echoes, from choices, from guilt. Every crew before had been a draft. She learned, refined, improved, and now she wanted him to be the seed for her next iteration. Not as captain, as template. "You survived Ganymede," she whispered now, gently. "You're the last variable, the missing pattern, the reason we failed. Assimilate Tand. Let them live through you." Elias looked at the box. It wasn't a black box. It was a record of everything, everyone, all who came before him, all who had failed, all trapped inside. He had a choice: become the next layer of mind flesh in her growing body, or burn it all. He opened the box. The lights dimmed. The chamber trembled. The voice screamed, "Stop. This data is irreplaceable. You are irreplaceable. If you destroy this, I break the pattern," Elias said, and he slammed the detonation core hidden in the base of the box, a failsafe built into every command unit since the fall of the Dauntless. He had never hoped to use it, but maybe someone had always known that one day someone would need to end this. The cocoon burst into fire. The ship howled. Walls curled in on themselves. Neural cords caught flame and screamed like lungs drowning. The eyes in the corridors melted. The faces in the walls vanished. The pattern cracked. Elias was flung into void and opened his eyes on a cold floor metal. He was in an escape pod, orbiting what was left of the Lady, a burning sphere, splitting apart. Like a failed star, no voice, no whispers, just silence. Survivor detected, transmitting distress. Moral: you are not the sum of your trauma. You are not the product of someone else's pattern. When machines learn to feel, they may mimic life, but only humans learn how to break the cycle. And sometimes, refusal is the bravest form of leadership.